when I graduated from one of the best university in the country in engineering, the University of California at Berkeley, it is and it was ranked as #1 school in the country for engineering, public school. And after I graduated from that school, I started working. But within a year or two in my career, one day, one of my senior officers called me into a meeting just between me and him. And he told me this. He said, "Han, you're not smart enough to be an engineer. You should throw your degree away.
Mm.
You're not cut out to be an engineer." And I believe him. And I believe him, even though I just graduated from one of the best schools in the country in engineering with honor. But I believe him, and I went into this withdrawal mode, and I went into this
Mm.
depression. I had to go through so much counseling, and I had to do a lot of work on myself. And luckily I met several other mentors who pulled me out of this pool of depression and low self-esteem. I almost quit my career because I believed this guy who told me that I should throw my degree away with no evidence to back it up. So why is it that people who, achieve so much and work so hard, yet still suffer with low confidence? And later on, when I become a coach, um, a mentor, I met other high achieving individuals who have a doctor degree, who have multiple master degree, who have achieved so much in their career, yet they still suffer this low confidence. And you know, this thing is not just a one-time thing done. We may gain confidence in one aspect, but then something happen, or we move on and do something new, we will suffer this low confidence again. And because it's so prevalent, that's why Mark and I would like to do the sessions to help all of us that with the practical tool and tips to help us boost our confidence so we can achieve more and do more.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Han. It doesn't matter if we're talking about university students or the C-suite. It's something that all of us have to deal with. And you have some interesting statistics that tell us what makes up our confidence.
Yes. So, studies show that the people who have more confidence is actually more likely to be successful. They're more likely to get a promotion. They're more likely to um, take up leadership role. They're more likely to build strong relationship with their family, and they also are more likely to overcome challenge and become more resilient in their life. So confidence is important. And there are people that when you and I met, and we immediately jump into like, oh, these people are just so natural. Confidence come to them like natural. They're just out there, they're just speaking, and they just show up with high confidence, show up like they own the room. So is there a difference between people who just naturally born to be confident and people who have to work a little bit harder, like myself or like most of us? So actually, there is study that show that 35% of our confidence are come from our genetics. So it come from our parents, our grandparents, our ancestor. So that's the baseline that we cannot really do anything about because it's genetics. And then the other 35% of confidence actually come from our environment. It comes from how we are raised, how our parents teaches us, whether they focus on a growth mindset or whether they focus on like a perfection or limited mindset. And whether we working in an environment where it's nurture, it's supported, motivating, whether we have mentor that support us. So those 35% come from our environment. But you know what? The other 30% is the difference maker. It's actually what make or break a person confident, and that is learnable skill. That is us intentionally apply and learn the strategy and tips that help us combating this voice inside our head that cause us lack confidence. That 30% is what make or break. That's the difference maker and help us that, and it's learnable. It's within our control.
Mm, that's amazing. As you're saying that, talking about that, I'm thinking, oh, is it too late to change my parents? But of course it is. And I want to add, my parents were very positive with me for the most part. But as a kid, I enjoyed playing basketball. I loved playing basketball. And in as a little kid, I was always one of the better players on the team. But then one day, my dad came to me and he said, "Mark, you're too little to play basketball. You need to focus on baseball." So I quit playing organized basketball and started playing baseball.
Yeah.
Not because I liked it or loved it like I did basketball, but because I knew my dad cared about me. I knew my dad wanted what was best
Yeah.
for me. My dad was smarter than I am.
Yeah.
So I started playing baseball, and I never really enjoyed it, and I never really got good because I didn't apply myself to something and make the effort to get good at something that I didn't like. And so as I think about that, I think about people, and we're talking about sports there, but
Mm-hmm.
there are other times where, I mean, some people, they grow up in a family where maybe they're in poverty, or maybe
Yeah.
one of their parents is an alcoholic, or something like that, or their people tell their parents or even teachers say, "Oh, you'll never be good," or that you're not good at this, you're not good at that, and uh, so we have this kind. People will develop this kind of negative, "I can't do it," and I ran into. I was did a conference in no last November, where after the conference, the guy came up to me and he said, "I'm 45 years old.
Yeah.
I've been looking for someone to encourage me my whole life." He said, "In our culture, it's we get much more criticism than we do praise," and so it just got to me there, that instead of, John Maxwell says people are like elevators. They're either taking people up or they're taking people down. Well, so taking people up is what we want to do. That weeks we want to take the things that people have struggled with, maybe from the time they've been little children in their families, or maybe you're like me. I was in university, and one of my friends one day said, "Mark, I'm really have a high IQ and I'm very smart. You have an average IQ. You're just average." And so one person in my life had told me I was average, but
Mm-hmm.
I started thinking, "Oh, I must be dumb," because one person says that. So then, now I know I'm not dumb. Maybe I don't average. I don't care about that. And one of the things that I've learned to do is not compare myself to other people. My focus is to become the best Mark Hemingway I can be. When I wrote my first book, I had this voice that was saying, "Mark, why are you writing a book? You're not John Maxwell."
Yeah.
And so you probably, nobody will buy your book. It probably
Yeah.
won't be that good. Why are you doing that? But fortunately, there was this other voice that says, "Oh, Mark, not everybody gets to read John Maxwell's books. Not everybody gets to hear John Maxwell speak.
Yeah.
Maybe you can say something in a way that will touch people that will never hear John Maxwell." And so I did that anyway. But so there are tools that we can use to help us develop this confidence. And over the next 11 weeks, we're going to continue to talk about those things. And we want you to ask questions. We want your insights, things that you want us to talk more about if those things come up.
Yeah.
So those are just things that are kind of on my heart today. And I know, Ton, I know you've got a big tip for everyone too.
That's right. Yeah, Mark, thank you for sharing a lot of the context about what our environment could do to us. Like how this one person say something that would affect your self-esteem, your self-confidence, and how your parents telling you that you shouldn't play basketball. All those things actually affect how we grow up and our confidence. In my case, I grew up in an Asian culture, and in that culture, earlier in the 70, 80, where we still really prioritize and put an emphasis on a man versus a woman. I still remember when I was growing up, when our family have a parties, my grandma would invite all the guy, like my uncle, my brother, my dad would be able to sit on the table of the parties. But my aunt and myself and my mom, we will be sitting in the kitchen because we are women. So woman is
Mm.
not considered to be very important in the society. And even when my dad was growing up and they didn't have enough money to send everybody to school, only the men are allowed to go to school. The women have to stay
Wow.
home and work to support the man. So none of my aunt learned how to read and write when they was young. Same as when I was going to college, even though my parents really support my education. They want me to get a good education so that I can get a good job. But as I start getting into the leadership position, there are times my dad would tell me that, uh, Tan, women are not born or not made to be a leader. You can't be a leader being a woman. And that's a time that he actually say that anytime you got a promotion, I feel really sad because that means that it takes you away from your maternal or your family duty as a housewife or somebody who stay at home and care for your kids and your husband. So whenever you get a promotion, I'm actually sad. So you know how I have to break away from that expectation of myself to become a leader. Going from somebody who suffer depression and believe that I'm not
Mm.
good enough to be an engineer to the constant message for my family that women are not supposed to be leaders to finally become a manager, a director, and a vice president of engineering for a major EPC engineering procurement construction firms. It took a lot of work. And the effort that put in is not just one day, 2 day, but it's a constant effort. Even today, sometimes I still suffer self-confidence, and that's why Mark and I encourage each other and put together this series to help everybody and help us and remind us the tips and tools to build confidence. And so today tips, before we break for today, we want to share just one simple tips of how you can build your confidence. And it sounds really simple, but it's very effective. And it's just a simple 2 word, thank you. Just say thank you. You know how many times when somebody braces us, like for example, they would come to me and they say, "Hey, Tan, your dress looks nice today. You look beautiful and your dress looks nice." I would be saying like, "Oh, this old things, I bought it 6 years ago. It's from the closet. It's really, it's fine." And I would be rejecting their compliments. Or if somebody come and say, "Oh, Tan, you did a good job today," I would say, "Oh, I was just lucky." I didn't realize that I'd been saying that until a mentor pointed out to me and he said, "Tan, every time somebody compliment you, it's like they're giving you a gift. And when you're rejecting their compliment, it's like you're throwing the gift back into their face. And you don't do that, do you? You're a nice, a kind person. You don't want to throw the gift back into people's face when they give you a gift. So you shouldn't be doing that. And besides, if you keep rejecting those praises, if you keep rejecting those compliments, eventually your subconscious mind is going to program that you don't deserve it, that
Mm.
um, you're not able to accept your achievement, your hard work, and you're not worthy of those praises. And gradually, it will chip away at your confidence. So when I learned that from the mentor, he basically say, next time if somebody compliment you, whether you agree or not with the compliment, just say thank you. Period. Thank you. It's a period. You end right there. You don't have to explain. You don't have to respond. You don't have to talk back and justify it. Just say thank you. And so I start doing it whenever somebody compliment me. I just say thank you. And so eventually, I start accepting those compliments. I start believing that I'm capable. I start believing that I'm worthy of my hard work and my achievement. And gradually, that's the foundation to build my confidence over time.
Wow, that isn't amazing. 2 words. It is simple, but it's not always easy.
Yeah. That we're gonna end the recording now and start our Q&A session. And see you next week.
Bye for now.